All right, I'm going to call to order a regular meeting of the Wellington Board of Selectmen. Today is Monday, May 17th, 2021. The first item on the agenda after call to order is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you will stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hear me? The next item is approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes in your packet. The first from May 3rd and the second from our special meeting on May 7th.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of May 3rd as written.
I will second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will call for a vote.
Aye.
Sorry, Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Mushinski.
Aye. All right, thank you. I will move to accept the minutes from our May 7th, 2021 special meeting as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, I will call for a vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Mushinski.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item is present to speak. If there is anyone on the meeting who would like to speak, I ask that you identify yourself for the record and limit yourself to 2 minutes. And you should have the ability to unmute yourself. So if you would like to speak, you may do so. Give a couple seconds here if there's anyone. All right, seeing none, there will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting for present to speak. Next item is correspondence. You'll see two communications in your packet. So we had a resignation from a regular member of Parks and Rec Commission, and then a letter to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance from the Conservation Commission. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll move on to my status report. Still waiting on the contract for the steep grant for the Old Town Hall septic. SBC, the school building committee has not had a meeting yet, so we were waiting for today. The deputy secretary of DAS came out and toured the school facilities with myself, the superintendent, and the chair of the school building committee. And so discussion on that tour of the facilities will take place at this week's school building committee. So there is a meeting this week at 6:30, I believe it's 6:30 on Wednesday, the 19th. LoSiP, we're still waiting on the next step of that project, so I have nothing new to report. Staff, as you know, we had an opening in Public Works, and we were planning to fill it with the same position, the labor technician position. We had a few applicants and interviewed 4 individuals. We really only had one that was qualified. It's a very unique position and did not get a lot of qualified candidates. And the one candidate we did have that qualified there was a conflict there. So after a lot of discussion, it was determined that at this time it was best to fill the position with a laborer. The employee that was in the position prior, who upgraded to a different position, that laborer / technician was kind of created when he moved from one position to the other. So it's definitely unique. So what we did was put it out internally today for a laborer And that will remain internal for 5 days unless waived by the union. And then if it's not filled internally, we will post externally at that point. So it's possible that this may render an option from an internal candidate. So I will keep you posted and we hope to get that filled. The light project at River Road, if you recall, I mentioned that the lights were on around the basketball court. The lights are on, the lights are up everywhere, they just haven't gone on. So we're hoping that this week, maybe Wednesday, that the installation for the playground and the volleyball court lights will be operating. And so they would be setting them up to come on at sunset with the rest of the lights. And then the parking lot lights would turn off at 11 and the rest would go off at either 9:30 or 10 p.m. So Parks and Rec Commission is planning to discuss the new time frame for use of the facilities with the lights up. So that's pretty exciting. And they'll be talking about that at their meeting on Monday, the 24th. So we look forward to that. I've been down there several times over the last couple of weeks, but only during the day. So the basketball court is typically filled. And so I know lots of folks are excited about the possibility of being able to use it at nighttime. Any other questions on update or comments? Yes, John.
Are we going to do any, are we gonna have a meeting on the union, on the new union contract?
Yes. So the union, and I'm going to discuss it a little bit later too. So the union finally responded to our attorney, and they are looking at the last week in June for us to begin meeting with them. It's incredibly disappointing. I see your face, John. This contract ends June 30. We know that, but getting them to set dates with us was not an easy task. So that's where we're at. I'm waiting, after we had the discussion about our attorney, we'll set some dates for us as a team. So looking at the 3 selectmen, the Board of Finance, designated a member of their board to join us, and then Donna, our Latensix, our business manager, will be joining us. And that, so as soon as I have dates moving forward, last I heard we were looking around the 24th or 25th, but we will meet as a team prior to that. So again, after we follow up on the discussion that we're gonna have later about our town attorney, then I'll move forward and set some dates with you all. Anything else? All right, we'll move on to Public Works. So I'm gonna zoom my camera out a little bit. I'm gonna show you that Troy is here with me in public. We are both fully vaccinated, and this will be the first time we've been in this building together without masks on. Okay, so Troy has an update for Public Works.
All right, we've been emptying the trash twice a week at the park. Roadside mowing still going on. We finally finished grading all the dirt roads today. Sweeping, we have about a week and a half left, and the town will be all complete. We moved some filing cabinets here at the town office building last week. We installed a half a door in the registrar's office, also in the town clerk's office. We installed some new plexiglass in a couple offices that didn't have them, so we can open up. We serviced the mowers today, and that's about it.
Okay, you're gonna hear me talk a little bit more in my update. Troy says that's about it, but there's been a lot of planning that's been going into our potential reopening, which when we get to COVID update, you'll hear me give you very specific dates about that. So a lot of work has been put into the last of the offices that will need a little bit of barrier between public and our staff members. So I want to thank them for all the work they put into that. Troy also has been working with one of the technical high schools in town, and Ellis Tech specifically, at having a work-based learning, a student in a work-based learning program come in and work with us as a temporary worker. And so this gives students in the tech schools a little bit of vantage point of what jobs in this field would look like. And so he went out a couple of times, Troy, right? And talked to students there about work in public works and what that would look like. And we had the opportunity to take on a temporary employee. So what it would be a 4-week paid work-based learning experience at the Department of Public Works, and it's paid on their end. So they pay up to $15 an hour, and it's reimbursed to the town. So students will get an experience and come out here and be able to work. And Troy happens to be a graduate of Ellis Tech, so it was perfect for him to go back and talk to those students. Do you want to tell them a little bit any more about?
Yeah, basically it's they're seniors, and we did one for seniors and one for juniors. So the seniors this year that are going out into the workplace, they were some people were interested. They did a whole big job fair, and one of them was Public Works. So we went there, we spoke to them, told them what we do, how I became a director for the town. And there was a person there that was interested in it, and I'm going to give them an opportunity to come see what Public Works does for 4 weeks.
So we look forward to providing some experience to these young people who may not necessarily be college bound, but are looking to enter this workforce. John, did you have a question? I see your hand.
Yeah, what specialty is the student?
He's actually in automotive right now, so he can do some repairs, but he was also interested in seeing what the other fields, installing a catch basin, doing some curbing, doing a little bit of paving, kind of show the whole thing. But he is actually in automotive right now, so he's got that background.
And he's a senior?
Yeah, he's a senior, yeah.
Just thinking that, a lot of Wellington kids are in Wyndham Tech. Might want to think about that in the future.
But this is the
it was-
technical
yeah.
school that reached out to us, and I don't know that it was, necessarily because of Troy. So COVID is certainly making things different in the way they're working, but this, gets us involved in the program. And so if we can work with other schools, no, I think that's a great idea, John. So. All right, so if you see some unfamiliar face, that's what it is. Like I said, it's a 4-week program. That he'll be out here with us, but they have to come in first and do an interview. So they make him go through the whole process, put him through a formal interview, and give them those experiences, which I think are important. All right, so for any comments or questions regarding Public Works? Okay, so that brings us to new business. So the first item is Public Works Week. This week is National Public Works Week. So I will move a proclamation. National Public Works Week, May 16th through 23rd, 2021. The theme is Stronger Together. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Wellington. And whereas public works personnel of the town of Wellington are involved in the maintenance, planning, design, and construction of streets, parks, playfields, open space, paths, storm drains, stormwater management, public buildings, operations of our recycling solid waste, and environmental programs and facilities, rights of way management, and emergency planning and response. Whereas during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Wellington Public Works personnel are essential workers who are continuing to work hard each and every day to keep our community safe and functioning with various responsibilities related to the COVID-19 response. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Wellington to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2021 marks the 61st annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. And now therefore, I, Selectwoman Erica G. Washinsky, Town of Wellington, do hereby proclaim the week May 16th through 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week in the town of Wellington, and encourage all citizens and civic organizations to recognize substantial contributions public works personnel make to protect our health, safety, and quality of life. dated the 17th day of May, 2021. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by John. So that's a lot. Listen, when you put down in writing, I think just a broad overview of the things Public Works does, you'll understand why we're continually fighting to get them all that they need, all the tools that they need to provide these services to the town, and it's substantial. So I really want to thank Troy and his staff. It's by no means a one-man job. They work hard out there every day. They're out there in the rain, in the snow, in the heat, in the cold. Whether the trash smells nice and fragrant or whether it's stinky, they're out there doing their part for us. During COVID, after COVID, they're the one department in the town of Wellington that really had no lapse during this COVID-19 pandemic. They did not work from home. They worked every day out there doing what they do for us. And so it's because of that that we want to recognize them this week. So with that, I will take a vote. All those in favor of the proclamation? Aye.
Aye.
I'll give you a break on this one. This seems no brainer, Heather. All right, Troy, so you can hang this up in your garage. Thank you. I don't think any of us have even shook hands in here. Anything you want to? No, sure. Put them on the spot.
That's about it.
So thank you. In conjunction with Public Works Week, Jenny and Human Services are doing a fill a truck, and that's not new to just Wellington. It's done statewide this week, so you'll see Jenny in various areas around town. Today she's here till 7:30. She'll be at the transfer station on Wednesday.
Park tomorrow.
At River Road Park tomorrow, back here on Thursday, and then at the library on Friday, collecting food for our food pantry. And I'll just give you a quick little blurb. Typically, in conjunction with Public Works Week, she collects about 600 to 800 food items. As of 5 p.m. today, she had 117 already. So we're well on our way to filling up that Public Works truck. So Troy, thank you, and your staff, please. They work long, hard hours, especially in the summertime, or I'm sure some of them would be here with us this evening. But unless you have anything else, I will not keep you here. We'll let him go home if he'd like.
All right, well, thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
We'll take the opportunity to. Sorry, you're good. I'm not so great with this.
All set?
All set. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you.
Okay. This is why you need somebody else to work these things. All right, the next item on our agenda is tax refunds. We have a couple of tax refunds. I will move to refund JP Morgan Chase on a certificate of correction in the amount of $310.04. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Waschinsky.
Aye. All right, I will move to refund Tiffy Basu Malik a certificate of correction in the amount of $14.96.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? No, seeing no discussion, I will call for a vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Waschinsky.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. So move on. We had several bids that went out. I thank Heather for gathering all this. None of them have been opened yet, so I'll be opening them here to share with you. So the next item is approving a vendor for the landfill groundwater monitoring. We put the bids out. They were due May 10th by 1 p.m. To be open today at our meeting, and we received just one. So just one FedEx envelope, it is sealed, and this is from GZA Environmental. They are our current vendor. And folks, there's an envelope inside of an envelope. All right, the proposal for scope of services is this was a 3-year award. So this is for sampling that will be performed on a quarterly basis in January, April, July, and October over 3 years, from July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2024. And there it is the amount of $8,500 per year for a 3-year total of $25,500. Multiple copies of the same bid. Okay, John?
Do we have any, do we have what they've been charging us in the past?
I don't have those numbers in front of me. Do you know, Heather?
The 8,500 is what they did the extension for last year.
Okay,
So it's comparable of what we're paying right now.
okay.
Okay.
So we did do a 1-year extension with them because of COVID. And there are not many that do this. So I will make a motion to award the landfill groundwater monitoring contract for July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2024 to GZA Geo Environmental Inc.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will call for a vote.
Lexington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Waschinsky.
Aye. Motion carries. The next item were propane bids. We received, before the deadline, we received 2 bids, sealed and labeled as the bid requested. We did receive a phone call on Friday from Superior Plus Propane, Osterman Propane, who wanted, from Osterman Propane, who did want to have his bid included. He said he had emailed it and we had not received. I said I could not guarantee we consider. He did email something this afternoon. It was well over the time frame when bids would be accepted, so I would not consider this a bid we could accept. The request for proposal that went out was very specific and how they should be returned. It did not say anything about emailing a bid. It did say they need to be sealed in an envelope, labeled, and received by May 10th. So for that, I would disqualify that particular bid. So that leaves us with 2, one from Superior Energy and the other unknown, just says propane bid. So I'll open the mystery envelope now. All right, so this is from Hocon Gas. The price propane per gallon at $1.45. Labor rate at $69. Labor rate after hours at $75 an hour. Labor rate for holidays and weekends at $75. Trip charge not applicable. It's dated May 7th, 2021. So that's from Hocon Gas. Right, so this is Superior Energy. And I do have recent prices if we want to compare. So Superior Energy is coming in at 1.179 per gallon. Labor rate regular $150. Labor rate per hour after hours $250. Labor rate per hour on holidays and weekends $350. Trip charge regular at $100, holidays and weekends $200. Please define trip charge here. Anytime a service technician is required on site, a trip fee will be required. This does not apply to propane deliveries. So that is from Superior Energy. So for reference, John and Liza, our current vendor is Superior Energy. And we are currently paying $83.9 per gallon for propane. So both of these are well over that amount. And Superior Energy's labor rates were $99 across the board in our current contract, and they did not at that time charge a trip charge. So, yes, so they have increased the price per gallon, which is less than Hocon Gas, but their labor rates have gone up. And there's now a trip charge. Hocon Gas, $1.45. $69 labor rate or $75 after hours, holidays and weekends, and no trip charge. I know we have not had any issues with Superior Energy, our current vendor.
Considering the way that prices are going these days, we have to expect that we're going to have a
Yes,
substantial increase on the per gallon price, but the charges here, 400, 450, 250,
150, 250, or 350.
150. I can't even read my own writing. But still, that's a huge increase.
It is, and I don't believe in the last year we've had them come out. I know we had issues last year with the propane at the garages. They did have to come out at that point. But, you know, my guess is this is probably in line with the cost of doing business these days. It's, I'd like to say it's surprising, it is significant, but I think that's what we're seeing in many areas.
So we didn't have, so were you just saying that we didn't have anybody come out to do,
I don't think we've had anyone
Maintenance.
in the last year, no.
okay?
It was
Because I know we have this conversation every time we open up one of these bids,
Mhm.
is, you know, balancing the high trip charge with a lower per gallon rate. Like at what point does it make sense to sort of roll the dice and hope that, well, if we're paying less per gallon, that will balance out if we do have to pay $250 rate. So I don't know, with everything increasing, maybe that math needs to be looked at again, but I don't know. Remind me what the Hocon gas per
The
gallon
Hocon per gallon is $1.45.
and their trip charge.
$69 regular per hour rates, $75 for after hours, and $75 for holidays and weekends. And they that's their labor rate, and $0 for a trip charge. So they are not charging a trip charge. And I have zero familiarity with Hocon Gas. So there's a little bit of roll the dice there as well.
Well, it sounds like, I don't know. And I think the past couple of times we've had this conversation, it was similar, that in recent memory, we don't recall having someone come out and charge us a trip charge, or anybody come out to have to do maintenance work that required a trip charge, which now that we've spoken those words out loud quite clearly, now we're going to have that problem come up 4 times over this winter, but hoping that that's not the case. Maybe it makes sense to stick with Superior Energy because we do have the history with them. Their per gallon charge is a little bit less, and keep our fingers crossed that I guess we still don't have maintenance visits.
And this is a 1-year contract. All right, so do you want to make a motion to that, Liza? Is that what you're doing?
Sure, let me make a motion. You're gonna have to fill in all the important details because I didn't write
Sure.
everything down, but I'll make a motion to accept Superior Energy propane bid.
That would be at $1.179 per gallon. I will second that. Is there any discussion? All right, I want to thank all those who bid on our contracts. And seeing no further discussion, I will call for a vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Waschinsky.
Aye. Right, motion carries, so thank you. The last bid we have for this meeting is a custodial bid. We received one bid. And it's H&S Carpet and Janitorial. They are our current vendor. I know there was some discussion by the library about them making a change and potentially hiring the same person. That was not something that was formally requested when we were going out to bid. So this is just our services. So it's the town office building, the public works garage, and the senior center. So this is the cleaning service bid from July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2023. It's a 2-year bid. The contractor is Wayne Hamilton at H&S Carpet and Janitorial Service. Again, they are our current vendor. And total bid amounts for the town office building, Old Town Hall, Public Works Garage. $125, each cleaning done 2 times a week. That's $250 a week, or about $1,000 a 4-week period. So it's for about $1,000 a month at the town office building, $40 each time when asked at the Old Town Hall. So those are per instance. That is not a regular cleaning at the Old Town Hall. And the Public Works Garage per week is $35 a time. And they go 2 times a week at the Public Works Garage. I will say we have not had any issues with our vendor. They're very responsive when we need to make any adjustments or changes. And they really stepped up when we had to alter some cleanings and add some additional and significant cleanings because of COVID-19. So we were very pleased. I have been very pleased with their services. Any comments or questions?
Well, I will just toss in that I'm a bit disappointed not to see the library tied into this. Last year, the library laid off their custodian and put money in their budget to hire a custodial service, which I thought was going to tie in with ours. And apparently they never did, because the minutes of their last meeting, they remarked that the workers in the library have been cleaning up, so now they would like to pay the workers for doing this cleaning up. And I really wish they would tie in with us or get their own vendor.
And they certainly, I know, John, when they talked about it, when the previous library director discussed it, he contacted our office. He asked for the name of the vendor that we use so they could reach out to them. And so I'm not sure where where it was dropped at that point, if they just were waiting until after a budget was passed, if they were rethinking what they were going to do, but they did not communicate to us that they were looking to have a bid with the town. So, but again, once we have a vendor, if they choose to reach out to that vendor for their own services. as well. I know they'd gotten prices from him, and I believe at that time they were similar to what he was paying with us, with the prices that he quoted to them to do the library. And I don't know how many times a week they want it done over there. That is certainly up to the director of the library board. All right.
Sam.
No other discussion. I'll make a motion to award the cleaning service contract from July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2023 to Wayne Hamilton, H&S Carpet and Janitorial Service, LLC.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Waschinsky.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, thank all those who participated. All right, the next item is CIP project, which is the underground oil tank replacement for Wellington Fire Department #1. I see Chief Moore and Stuart Cobb on this meeting. I believe Stuart is going to speak to this project.
Yes, I can do that.
Stuart, I will give you the floor.
So presently at the station at 426 River Road, there's a 2,000-gallon underground oil tank. We've been in this building 40 years. We've replaced the tank once at its 20-year mark, and now it's hitting 20 years again. The cost estimates for doing either an above ground or in-ground tank replacement, staying with heating oil, was over $100,000, 100 to 110,000 to replace the oil tank. On top of that, our insurance does not cover any leaks from underground tanks. It hasn't been a problem yet, but it's certainly a consideration. So we looked at an alternative. It was to convert our heating system over to use propane. I don't have the exact figures, but I think it was 50,000, Erica, in CIP.
I believe so. I believe that's correct, Stuart.
To remove the old oil tank, install additional propane tanks, convert the burner over, and that sort of thing. The plan is to use LoCIP funding, which requires it to go through the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and town meeting, is what Donna told me. So this is the first step to getting that funding available, and so we can move forward with that project now that we're out of most of the heating season.
So if I understand the process right, as Donna discussed with you and myself, to come to us, they're now ready to move forward with this project. And then would need to go to the Board of Finance for the funding, and the Board of Finance would authorize that and then recommend the Board of Selectmen call a town meeting. Is that as you understood it as well? Okay.
That's my understanding as well.
Yeah. So do you have plans to go to the Board of Finance? I know they're meeting this Thursday, this month.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure it made it onto the agenda, but if not, it's as soon as possible to move that forward.
Did you requested it to go on the agenda? I haven't seen an agenda yet, so I don't believe one's been posted.
Yep, I do not know. I'll have to
Okay.
check with Donna on that one.
Okay. All right, we can move that forward and ask this to go on there, and then we will move this process along. And again, because it is LoCIP dollars, it will require a town meeting for approval.
On an unrelated note, right now, we don't own our own tanks, and part of this project is to purchase our own propane tanks. We're paying over $6 a gallon for propane now that we use in the generators. You saw what your bid price is. Right now, we use about $1,200 a year in propane. It's not a lot, depends if the generators run a lot or not. But we're hoping for some savings. We know what our oil bill was in the previous years, ranging from 2,400 to 3,800 gallons of oil, depending on the year. A gallon of propane, it does not have the same amount of energy as a gallon of oil. So it's not a one-for-one transfer for BTUs out of the deal. So we'll find out what our heating bill is, but in essence, saving $50,000, even if the heating bill goes up some, We still save 50,000 by switching to propane.
Okay. John or Liza? Comments, questions? We'll move forward with this process.
So I'm sorry, so there's going to be the same request made of the Board of Finance, and then it gets sent back to us to set up a town
Call a
meeting?
Town meeting, yes.
Okay,
So in order to spend LoSiP funds, it has to be authorized at town meeting. So the Board of Finance will have to appropriate the dollars and recommend that the Board of Selectmen call a town meeting. Now, Stuart, I will tell you that we are gearing up to have the annual town meeting. So if that, if things work out at the Board of Finance this week, we could get this on that meeting as well, if you're prepared for that.
Yep, but we have some cost estimates from a bunch of different vendors. We're doing a little bit of sweat equity in terms of trying to excavate the trench ourselves,
Okay,
mainly because we know it's buried out in the lawn out there. And we got to be careful where we dig.
sure. So I saw $50,000 in CIP. What are your estimates looking like right now?
40 or less, we hope. So our quotes are a year old. I have contacted the vendor saying we want some updates on that, but it looks like we'll be under budget. So that's, the most important thing. We'll keep it as low as we can.
That's good news. Well, considering it doesn't involve lumber, I think you're already in a better position. All right. Any other comments or questions from the board? Thank you. Thank you, Stuart. So I will move on to item G, which is discussion of our town attorney. I was informed a week ago Friday about towards the end of the day that our town attorney, the current attorney we're using, has left the firm that the Board of Selectmen had voted to use. That firm is now left with only 2 attorneys. There were several when we began using Siegel, O'Connor, O'Donnell, and Beck. There are now just 2 attorneys left, and neither practice in management and labor law. So I do not believe at this current time it's in our best interest to continue to use that firm. We have several issues that we're currently working on with our attorney, one of them being the pending union negotiations. And so it's my recommendation that we continue using our attorney in his new role in the firm of Ford Harrison. In Hartford, certainly more vast resources at that firm. I'd never heard of Ford Harrison. Not to be confused with Harrison Ford.
I was gonna say, maybe they should.
Yeah, maybe. There's some Indiana Jones stuff going on there. So they are a nationwide firm. They certainly have more resources at their disposal than the current firm we're at. So we could stay, I would recommend we stay with our town attorney. We would be grandfathered in at the contracted rate that we pay with him in his transition to this firm. Now, that's not to say we couldn't at some point decide to go out to bid. That would negate the grandfathering of our rates with him once we do that. But with the things that we have in play right now, I think it's important that we continue on with the current town attorney that we have.
This is,
It was shocking to me,
well, it's really poor timing,
for sure.
especially with the labor negotiations going on. Are we sure that Ford Harrison is not representing an adversary anywhere along the line?
Not as far as our union, that, no,
Okay,
Fair enough.
or anything that, anything that the town is involved with.
not currently,
Okay. That would be the important question.
yes.
I don't think we're in a
You know,
position
at
now where we
any,
can change.
right, and at any time, we can decide to change representation. That is up to us as a board. But at this point, I think it would really not benefit the town. We do have several items with labor right now on the table that are very important, and one again being the union negotiation. So we can certainly take a little time to think about moving forward, and if we wanted to look at our other options after that, but at least for the things that we have ongoing, I think it's important that we stay with the firm that we're at. I will tell you, I've only had one discussion with him since then, and did make it clear that we needed to have this meeting and discussion and potential vote to either move in a different direction or stay with him now before we move forward. So it really puts us in an uncomfortable place of potentially not having representation, which is scary. So there is precedence in the past of changing attorneys, but staying with someone to see a project through. And again, we can do that. We do not have to make a decision for the long term tonight, but I will now formally make a motion that we continue to utilize the services of Ford Harrison Law Firm and our current attorney, Brian O'Donnell.
Second.
Second by Liza. Any discussion?
We're never going to get the name correct now
Never
from
gonna get
here
the
to
name right.
forth.
That
We
is
will
correct.
always now forever call it Harrison Ford.
That's correct. I may or may not have Googled Harrison Ford to start with. I'll plead the fifth. Did not come up with a law firm in Hartford to start. Any other discussion? And again, I'm open to discussion if this board feels that we need to go in a different direction in the future.
Yeah, I think as long as we are following appropriate protocol, right? Like, I don't know what the protocol usually is if a attorney leaves a firm, if you're sort of contracted with the attorney or contracted with the firm. So as long as we are not like in breach of any kinds of contracts by making this choice, then I would say I would rather stick with the person that has been serving us rather than the firm, because we don't have any history with any of those other attorneys. So if this is kosher, then yes, that's what I would recommend.
I will tell you, Liza, I did some research about that began about 5 seconds after I hung up the phone with him when I determined that this was the path we were going down. We do not have a contract with them. We did, the previous boards did vote, the Board of Selectmen voted to engage the firm Siegel, O'Connor, O'Donnell, and Beck, and an attorney at that point, but they were utilizing the board, I'm sorry, the firm. And so now that the firm does not offer us the resources, it's not as though they have other attorneys. We've gone through different attorneys with that firm in the past who've left, and that's how we ended up with the current attorney we have. But now there are down to just 2 attorneys with that firm, and they do not have, they don't practice the kind of representation that we need right now. And that's where I think it's easy for us to move away from that. And I did seek multiple levels of advice on what direction we could take to make sure that what we were doing was okay. And so we voted to, a board voted to utilize that firm. And so now we're taking a formal vote to stay with our current attorney at Ford Harrison Law Firm.
Were we paying them a retainer?
No,
No?
no, we pay by the hour. We just
Well,
have a rate.
as
and
far as
that
I'm
rate-
concerned,
I'm sorry, John?
as far as I'm concerned, we were signed on with a law firm,
That is correct.
but now we want to get rid of that law firm because they pretty much have got rid of us. It's sort of a mutual deal, so I guess we're going to have to stick with wherever Attorney O'Donnell goes. And again, if we're unsatisfied with it, we can always change it later.
That is correct. I mean, let's say we finish the items that we have open with him currently and wanted to go out to bid, we absolutely could. There's nothing to stop us from doing so. And again, if this law firm had multiple resources and just not that attorney and he left to go somewhere else, we might be having a very different discussion. But it sounds like what was a kind of robust law firm has dwindled to just two individuals at this point. So, yeah. And the firm they have has multiple attorneys at our disposal that we would be able to work with if needed, something other than the specifics we're using with current attorneys. All right, seeing no further discussion, I will call for a vote on the motion.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Waschinsky.
Aye. Motion carries. I thank you much. All right, COVID-19 update. Look, things have been taking a more positive turn. We're starting to hear about things reopening. We're starting to hear about less cases. The positivity rate in the state has been down under 2% for some number of weeks now. And so that's promising. I think we're starting to see a path to the other side of this. Our cumulative COVID data is, to date, we have 255, have had 255 COVID positive cases in Wellington, and currently have 22 probable cases. That's an increase. The 255 is an increase of 6 since our last meeting on May 3rd. And most of those came last week. So in the Thursday updates for, they do an average over a 2-week period. We are out of the alert levels, the yellow, orange, and red, and back into the gray. At that time, it was less than 5 cases per 100,000 over that 2-week period. We might see that change a little bit in the next reporting, but it's 2 weeks prior to now. So that's positive. With the increase in vaccinations and everyone really stepping up to do their part to help fight this so that we can get back to some sense of normal, I think deserves some applause from us. I really want to thank our community for once again thinking outside themselves, beyond themselves, and working hard so that we can all stay safe. Thursday, the CDC and Governor Lamont announced a relaxation of masking guidance. The governor noted then and then again today that any changes are effective after May 19th, so that is Wednesday. He noted further exceptions and caveats to the masking. So large gatherings, some larger venues, there'll still be some requirements. Today, he did make a point of saying that businesses, both private and public offices, can make determinations on mask requirements individually. So it is up to us what we do moving forward. Our health district, as of Friday, recommended no changes at this time. They asked for our patients while they waited for final guidance from the governor's office and DPH. And I think a lot of that came today, but we haven't heard back from the health district. So as of right now, I won't be making any new changes or recommending any for town buildings and staff. So we would still we'll still require masks in our building at this time. Our staff will still wear masks when we're in public spaces. I will, though, lessen that at the transfer station, and beginning after May 19th. If you're maintaining a social distance, a mask at the transfer station outside will no longer be required. It's recommended that anyone in close contact, not vaccinated, still wear a mask. Again, those are based on CDC guidelines. So we'll ask everyone to do their part. That's what I have on masks specifically. You guys have any comments, questions, concerns?
I would hope we would be moving away from all this as quickly as possible. Apparently, it seems now that the disease is not quite as serious as it was in the beginning. I've known several people who've had it, and the worst they've gotten is like a mild flu, and still we're being hit with panic. Everybody has to wear masks forever and ever, and now, like you said, we're going to do away with masks at the transfer station outside, which is pretty much an outside thing.
That's correct.
I hope we could start seeing like you and Troy tonight, not wearing masks, you've both been vaccinated. That makes sense. And hopefully we could see masks go away as more and more people get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Just-
And I think we'll move to that direction, John. I'm hesitant to say that it's still not serious for someone. I'm happy to hear that those that you knew didn't suffer serious effects, but I think we all know it's individual driven, depending on their health concerns. And we continue to take it seriously, but we're definitely moving in a positive direction. There are going to be people who are going to want to wear a mask, whether they're outside or inside, and that is, their choice, and we're moving in that direction. And I think that that's it speaks a lot about the work that's been done over the last 15 months by individuals. So, and on the vaccine note, now persons 12 and over are eligible for a vaccine. 12 to 17 years old can only receive the Pfizer vaccine. So we're starting to see more clinics pop up. Our vaccine data as of May 12th was we are at 49.59% of our total population, so not eligible population, but total population, received their first doses. And 40.09% are fully vaccinated. And again, every day we're seeing more and more becoming vaccinated, so those numbers are increasing. So just here in Wellington, we're getting close to the 50% of total population, not eligible population. So I'm encouraging anyone now 12 and over, not just 16 and over, to consider being vaccinated. It is still a personal choice. This is not a requirement. It is not anything mandated by the federal government. It's not anything mandated by the state, and certainly not anything mandated by the town of Wellington. Everyone has to make their own choice, and I encourage them to consider it.
And if I can just add in, I'm happy that it's not mandated. Still, I would suggest to everybody to get the vaccination anyway. Just
Yes.
thought I'd throw that in too.
I'm with you on that. Listen, I'm not gonna lie, the second dose wasn't a fun day after. But I consider myself fortunate if that's the worst that I had to go through, so that someone else might not become ill because I contracted COVID-19 and spread it, so. All right, so the current emergency declaration is set to expire on May 20th. Although the legislature did extend the governor's powers for 2 months through July 20th. So we're anticipating a handful of executive orders to be extended past July 20. The last set were considerably fewer than had been in place before. There are several that specifically speak to our municipality that are of interest, and that's relaxing some requirements, some notice requirements, having to notice items in a newspaper, whether or not we're allowed to have hybrid meetings. There is some debate over the legislative bill on hybrid meetings and it being allowed, and the governor's office is having their stances. They wanted to mandate that. I'd like to see it something that we're allowed to do. If we're mandated to continue to hold hybrid meetings, it's certainly going to get very challenging. We are outfitted for one room in order to do what we're doing now. We could get in, the three of us could get in a room. We could easily be in person with others in public and do this hybrid. We don't have this technology in more than one of our meeting rooms, and that would be a problem. That would be problematic. So, it really would mean that we'd be having meetings via Zoom and couldn't have every meeting in public. So we're following that closely. I anticipate before Tuesday, I'm sorry, Wednesday, so probably tomorrow, but nothing happens as fast as we'd like it to. So I feel like once again, this week I'm saying to you, stay tuned. There might be some adjustments on how our meetings are able to be conducted moving forward.
I'm a little confused here. Maybe everybody else is too. The legislature has extended the governor's emergency powers to July 20th.
That's correct.
is this extending the executive orders he has already
No,
put out, or is it extending his powers to issue executive orders?
it extends his powers. And so what he would need to do, similar to what he did for the current executive orders that were extended, he will specifically extend those things. So there was an executive order that extended very specific portions and sections of previous executive orders. And we didn't really see new ones. And some of those are around municipal meetings, public meetings and such. So they were, I anticipate those getting the number of executive orders to become smaller in this next round as we move towards some legislation at that point. So there is lots of talk in the session about taking some of the things that have been enacted here and making them permanent by statute as opposed to just an executive order. And so what I think is that because there's still more discussion, they weren't ready to move on those. But again, the public meeting and the ability to have a hybrid meeting and the mandate to have a hybrid meeting are two very different things, and I would be opposed to the mandate. I think it really could hinder some small towns, specifically Wellington, to be able to hold in-person meetings or and offer a hybrid meeting to folks. So we will see. But I'll keep you updated as soon as those come through. We'll share those. Does that answer your question, John?
Pretty much. I'm still unaware where the Constitution allows this, but who cares?
I will say the legislation, the legislature voted. So as opposed to prior to that, where we weren't having a discussion, they actually took a vote in this direction. So that's.
You want me to go
Yeah.
into when the Reichstag burned?
Nope, I sure
The
don't. So we'll
legislature
stick to,
voted to give emergency powers to Mr. Hitler, and then they voted to extend the emergency powers,
okay.
et cetera, et
So I'm
cetera.
gonna bring us back to our agenda. I have a few more items in our COVID update. So the long-awaited fully open of the town office building and other public buildings is coming. So we've set June 7th, which is a Monday, the night of our next meeting, as the date we plan to reopen the town office building to the public. And when I say fully to the public, we've always been open to see folks. We've just had the doors locked, so that would change. We have precautions in place in all of our departments. Staff will continue to wear masks when in public areas, but within their separate offices, they're not needed due to either being alone in an office or having partitions in their office, which if you've been in here in the last year, you've seen those partitions in place, and we've made some additional adjustments in some offices. For instance, the registrar's office, they now have that split half door like you see at the tax office. You come in so that when individuals come up to their door rather than coming into the office, there's the ability for them to stay slightly farther away. So Public Works has really been integral in helping us get some of those things in place before we open. I'll still encourage our residents to conduct as much business as possible in the manner we have been, whether it be online, via email or via phone. But if your business does require you to be in person, we'll ask you to wear a mask, at least at this time. And while, we love to see people and would love to say hello, we do ask that you limit the time in the building to the business that you need to conduct. The safety of everyone is our first priority. So as we move to that open, we'll be opening for now. The restrooms upstairs will be open to the public. The bathrooms downstairs will be closed to the public at this point. And we are looking at making some specific adjustments in the town clerk's office as far as number of persons in the vault at any given time. So I believe we're looking at 2. And so when that final guidance comes out, you'll see that But other than that, you'll be able to come in here to conduct your business if need be. So that will be June 7th. So again, moving in a forward direction. And if anything changes with mask protocols, we'll share that as well. It's May 17th. If anything changes before May 7th, then we move in a different direction with masks. I'll make sure to share that with this board, and we'll put that information out to the public. Any questions about the reopening? No, okay. I did receive the long-awaited guidance at the 11th hour for the ARP funding. It is 151 pages of sheer excitement. I did communicate with the Board of Finance last week that I couldn't with certainty recommend removing items from our budget. There is still some ambiguity in the spending. There's lots of discussion and lots of conversation about it being widespread use, not as any more restrictive than the CRF funding that we saw. But without a few more questions and a little bit more detail, I couldn't with certainty recommend we remove things from the budget and then risk them not being able to be spent with those dollars. It's disappointing. We stalled that process hoping it would be a little bit more clear. I'm not sure why I anticipated billions of dollars from the federal government coming without a lot of language. But we wanted to hold off if need be. So I do have several meetings. The next one is May 28th with CCM about some of these funds. So as we get more clarity, we will continue to share that. So again, I sent that information to the Board of Finance. We set forth a budget with items we felt were needed prior to knowledge of any federal funding. And I strongly stand by the budget we sent to the Board of Finance and still believe those things were needed regardless of that. So Board of Finance is meeting Thursday. These items should be on the agenda there. And then once they make their appropriation or approval of a budget, we'll move forward with calling the annual town meeting. And then from there, a referendum. So anticipating that Thursday, the Board of Finance could be making some votes on the budget that puts us back on track. Can each of you let Heather know your availability on Monday to potentially have a special meeting with the one item, which would be to call the annual town meeting? All right. I'm sorry, John.
I have another meeting on Monday.
We don't necessarily have to do it at night, John.
Okay,
So that's why I said, send your availability if a mid-afternoon or an early afternoon, an early evening at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Again, the only item on the agenda will be to call the annual town meeting. And that's assuming that on Thursday, the Board of Finance moves in a forward direction. If that doesn't happen, then we have to wait for the Board of Finance at that point. And we still anticipate 30 days from the time the money was turned over to the state to be turned over to town. So we're still looking at June 11th. Any questions, comments regarding COVID update? Okay. Item B under old business, the Town of Union discussion. So some months ago, the Board of Finance asked the Board of Selectmen to reach out to the Town of Union, start communications as to whether or not they'd be interested in, not interested in the discussion of some funding from the Town of Union to our town in regards to our ambulance, which makes calls to the Town of Union. So this board, then we talked and said, start the conversation. So I did meet with the first selectman from Union. He did note to me that the town has never funded an ambulance, and that the service agreement to provide service has been with outside ambulance organizations outside of the Town of Union. And some years ago, Willington Fire Department #1 took over that PSA. So it's from the state. They have the agreement to provide services to the Town of Union for an ambulance. So it's not, they took it from another private, a previous ambulance company.